He was the heart of one of television's most beloved sitcoms, the clumsy, cheerful first mate known simply as Gilligan. But while Bob Denver's on-screen life was full of laughs, his real-life story was far more complicated and heartbreaking. Today, his once vibrant home sits abandoned, a quiet monument to a life that brought joy to millions, but ended in private pain. Few know the truth behind his final years, the love he shared, the struggles he faced, and the battles he fought until the very end. This is the untold story of Bob Denver, the man behind Gilligan, and what he left behind. Bob Denver became a household name in the 1960s, thanks to his unforgettable role as Gilligan on Gilligan's Island. The show, though only airing for 3 seasons, became an enduring classic. With reruns playing for decades, Bob's goofy charm and comedic timing made him a favorite across generations. But behind the wide smile and slapstick humor was a deeply private man. Denver wasn't one to chase the spotlight off-screen. He was soft-spoken, thoughtful, and often overwhelmed by the attention his character brought him. Still, Gilligan's Island launched him into the stratosphere of fame. Everywhere he went, he was Gilligan. People laughed, pointed, and asked for autographs, but very few ever asked how he was doing. While the world saw a lively, upbeat television star, Bob Denver privately struggled with something far more dangerous: a long-term smoking addiction. Like many of his generation, he began smoking when its dangers were less known. But even as the years passed and research caught up, he couldn't quit. This habit would cost him dearly. In the early 2000s, Bob was diagnosed with throat cancer, a direct result of decades of smoking. The cancer affected not just his health, but his voice. The same voice that had entertained millions. He underwent surgery to remove cancerous tissue, followed by radiation and other aggressive treatments. But the damage had already been done. In 2005, his health worsened. Bob underwent heart bypass surgery, revealing he was also suffering from coronary artery disease. That same year, he passed away at Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center from complications following surgery. He was 70 years old. His cause of death: complications from throat cancer and a deadly case of pneumonia, a post-operative infection common in patients weakened by disease and surgery. Bob Denver's personal life was a winding road of relationships, heartache, and eventual peace. He married 4 times, each relationship leaving a unique mark on his life. His first marriage brought him a son and a daughter. While little is known about his first wife, it marked the beginning of his role as a father, a role he cherished even as his fame grew. In 1967, Bob married Jean Weber. Their union lasted just 3 years, during which his fame was rising fast. By the time it ended, Bob was already becoming a national figure. Then came Carol Abrahams in 1972. They shared some of Bob's most successful years together, welcoming a daughter named Emily. But again, fame and personal struggles made the relationship difficult to maintain. They divorced in 1975. It wasn't until his 4th marriage, to drummer Perry Denver, that Bob found lasting love and stability. Dreamer wasn't just a wife. She was his anchor. They had a son together, Colin, who was born with autism. Caring for Colin became a mission that defined the second half of Bob's life. He stepped away from the spotlight and focused on being a father, partner, and advocate. Through Dreamer and Colin, Bob found purpose beyond performance. But even away from the camera, Bob Denver had his struggles, including some with the law. In 1971, he was arrested for marijuana possession. Police discovered paraphernalia and weed in his car. Though attitudes about marijuana were beginning to shift, it was still illegal, and Bob faced serious consequences. He pled no contest and received a reduced sentence and fine. Nearly 30 years later, in 1998, another incident emerged. Authorities discovered marijuana delivered to his home. At first, Bob claimed the package came from Dawn Wells, his co-star on Gilligan's Island, but later retracted that statement in court. suggesting it was likely sent by a fan. He once again pled no contest and received probation. While these incidents may have created brief headlines, they didn't tarnish Bob's image. If anything, they humanized him. Many speculated he used marijuana for pain relief, not recreation. In the end, they served as quiet reminders that even icons have flaws and reasons behind them. During the height of his fame, Bob Denver bought a house nestled in Topanga Canyon, not far from Malibu, California. This wasn't just a place to live. It was his sanctuary. Surrounded by ancient oaks and hidden in nature, the house offered Bob a refuge from the chaos of Hollywood. It was private, peaceful, and close enough to the studio lots for convenience, yet far enough to feel like another world. He invested heavily in renovating the property, turning it into a true reflection of his personality. Not flashy, not excessive, just comfortable, calm, and authentic. Like Bob himself, Topanga Canyon, long known as a haven for artists and musicians, was the perfect fit. Hawks soared overhead. Trees whispered in the wind. The silence was healing. It was here that Bob could finally breathe, recharge, and reconnect with who he really was. Away from cameras, contracts, and crowds. But California wasn't his only escape. In the 1970s, Bob quietly purchased a small home in Bovina, New York, a rural town in the Catskill Mountains. Unlike Topanga Canyon, this retreat was even more remote. It was quiet, modest, and far from paparazzi or Hollywood buzz. Here, Bob didn't need to be Gilligan. He could just be Bob. Locals remember him fondly, especially one charming story where he entered the town's general store with a monkey perched on his shoulder. A quirky image, but so fitting for a man who had always brought smiles. Bob's time in Bovina was a break from a fading career and a search for clarity. The show had ended. New roles were harder to find. This house represented peace, a space to pause and reset. Later in life, Bob found his final refuge, and perhaps his greatest sense of purpose. In Princeton, West Virginia, he and Dreamer moved there to better support their son, Colin. Away from the lights and noise, Bob focused on being a father, husband, and community member. Their home in Princeton was warm and welcoming, blending rustic charm with modern touches. It wasn't just a home. It was a safe space filled with family, love, and the values Bob had come to cherish. Together, they ran a non-profit radio station, WGAGLP 93.1 FM, serving the local community. It was a small station, but it had a big heart. They also started the Denver Foundation, supporting children with special needs and military families. These efforts weren't about publicity. They were about giving back, inspired by the challenges they lived every day. To the people of Princeton, Bob wasn't a washed-up celebrity. He was a neighbor, a friend, a man who waved back.